Okay, I think we are good to start.
Yeah, I got notified.
Okay. All right. So we are going to turn it over to Steve to give our presentation. And then after that, we will be able to open it up for some Q&A.
Should probably unmute myself. How's it going? How's it going? My name is Steve. As Sarah said, I'll be going over this this slideshow that we've kind of put together. Try to hold all questions until the very end. If you have a question about a slide, just let us know what slide you have a question on, and hopefully we'll be able to answer that. If not, it might be something that you might be able to email Sarah, and we can talk about that and get clarification on that question so that we can answer that question a little bit later via email. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and see if I can share my slideshow. I know we just went over this too.
Just go to from beginning.
Yeah, I'm at from beginning. Just having a hard time. Slideshow. You're seeing my screen.
And then click on from beginning.
From beginning. That's right. And then display. All right, here we go. All right, as Sarah's already said, welcome to the fiscal year 23 application question and answer session for the e-cigarette, marijuana, and other drug prevention grant. Obviously today we'll take some time to review this grant opportunity and application process. There will be time at the end of presentation to answer any questions. Like I said, if you have a question on a slide, feel free to, in that question at the end, revert back to that slide so we can look at that and answer that question as easily as possible. If we don't have an answer for you, feel free to email us and we can review that question and get back to you in a timely fashion, hopefully by end of day, if not next day. All right. All right, so this is just kind of going over what the funding overview is. Obviously, this is for the e-cigarette, marijuana, and other drug prevention grant as a result of the 2020 legislative session under the Utah Code. And annual funding opportunity is anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000 per award. So this is kind of the timeline. We did get this out a little later because we're all pretty new to it and had to go over a few things just to kind of clear up the grant process, hopefully make it a little easier to review and focus primarily on Utah County and organizations within the county to better those communities within our county. Obviously, you see the grant was announced last week. The Q&A session's happening right now. The grant application due date is the 26th by 11:59 p.m. Anything that comes in after that will not be accepted at that time. Applicants, we're hoping to have them notified by September 9th. It's based off of whether we get it on the session and get that out there for approval through our commission. The project period, obviously, since we got it out a little bit later, is going to be about 9 months. So from October 1st to June 30th is our hope that we'll have that start date October 1st. We would like progress reports due January 15th, April 15th, and June 15th, just so that we know what's going on. We have the minutes of your meetings, what classes have been going on, just kind of the general rundown of the progress of your the service or the grant you are doing. And then the final report will be due in July. We haven't come up with the exact date. Most likely it will be July 15th. That final report will be due. Eligible grantees, obviously we'll see this a little bit. Grantees must be one of the following, the coalitions, local communities, organizations within Utah County. Like I said, we want to primarily focus on Utah County, the communities within. That's why Utah County, if you've applied for this grant in the past, you'll actually see we're really, really focusing hard on Utah counties and the communities within. Obviously, we'll be able to, the grantees shall address root causes and factors associated with the use of electronic cigarettes, marijuana, and other drugs. As you see those little points right there, addressing the risk protective factors that is identified in the Utah Sharp survey, which we'll go over in a little bit, identifying ways to implement the 7 strategies, and explaining how all programs are evidence-based. All right, and we have a few more eligibility things for the grantees. Grantees cannot use already funded activities for projects proposals. Grantees applying as a coalition must provide coalition meeting minutes for the previous year. Grantees applying in conjunction with partners or other agencies must submit letters of support from their partners acknowledging the agreement to support and a willingness to work in a partnership if awarded the funding throughout the entire grant year. Grantees applying must reside within Utah County. We want to help our local county members help their communities, like I said a little bit earlier. This is the definition of a coalition. Feel free to read through that. Basically, a coalition is a group of diverse individuals who come together to work on a common goal. That's what we want. We want coalitions getting together within themselves or just to work within their communities. A lot of you have already done things within your communities or have had this grant previously. So you kind of know what's going on here. The requirements for a coalition is to provide a certain number of coalition involvement agreements, a certain number of sectors represented, and a certain number of months of coalition meetings minutes within, well, with at least 6 members present. A coalition involves an investment of time and resources, and it should not be built if a simpler entity will get the job done or if community support is lacking, because you definitely want support from your community. All right, and this is just kind of a definition of local education agency. Feel free to read through that. It'll be on the presentation when we're done, when we load everything up to the Utah County website. So you can kind of look at that a little bit, but I'll read the top one for you. A local education agency means a school district, a county office of education, a community college district, or a school district on behalf of one or more schools within the school district. There's a lot that falls under the one right below it, the Public Board of Education, and things of that. So we'll have you read that and kind of see if you kind of fall into that when you're looking through the application process. All right, so the application components, obviously we'll want a application cover page, the community description, statement of the problem within that community, the selected intervention on what you're planning on doing, whether it be classes, educating, or whatever you have in mind for that intervention, for that community or for that school. Action plan and evaluation plan and a budget form. With the budget form, if selected, there will be a template for that. All right, obviously the grant project focus, the grantees must address root causes and factors associated. So basically the root causes are the underlying reasons that create the differences seen in health outcomes. They are the conditions in a community that determine whether people have access to the opportunities and resources they need to thrive. Some of the risk factors are characteristics of school, community, and family environments, and of students and their peer groups known to predict increased likelihood of drug use, delinquency, school dropout rates, and violent behavior among the youth. For example, children who live in disorganized, crime-ridden neighborhoods are more likely to become involved in crime and drug use than children who live in safe neighborhoods. All right, and then obviously we want to address those risks, implementing the 7 strategies from CADCA, which we'll go over that in a little bit. Obviously the activities must be evidence-based or a promising practice. Grantees cannot use already funded activities for project proposals. All right, so as we talked about a little bit earlier with SHARP, the SHARP survey is done, I believe, every couple of years. They post new ones, I believe, every 2 years. It's administered to students in the 6th, 8th, 10th, and 12th of every year, but they don't release a survey for every other 2 years, or I believe. The latest survey and report was completed in 2021. The report provides data on substance use, antisocial behavior, community and school climate and safety, social and emotional health, substance related indicators. Whoops, sorry about that. Physical health and safety, risk factor profiles, and protective factor profiles. You can actually access this yourself. The website is right through here. And on that, you'll actually be able to go down to 2021, select Utah County, and you'll be able to look at the data through there. As you see, I have Utah County all highlighted. From that prevention program, you can get the following reports for North, Central, Provo, Vineyard, Orem would be in that central area, and the South reports. And you can also get the Hispanic Utah County LGBTQ, I believe, is coming. I did not see it on there. So it should be appearing. I did see a note that said not sufficient data to report transgender student profile report. So it just depends on what you're looking for and the area you're looking to serve. Here's some of those risk factors for adolescent problem behaviors. This chart actually shows the links between the 20 risk factors and 6 problem behaviors. The check marks indicate where at least 2 well-designed published research studies have shown a link between the risk factor and the problem behavior. So you can kind of see where delinquency can lead to problems at schools and a problem within the home with family conflict, things like that. So this is actually something really good to look at when you're trying to look at what areas you're going to kind of put your grant towards. All right, so this is actually located in the SHARP report. This is actually on page 49 if you're looking at it. This just actually shows a breakdown of how we compare with the state level, along with the how it's gone up in certain areas compared to the previous years. So that's really interesting to look at if you dig down into it. Just remember that we are looking for risk factors that are increasing or are higher than the other factors, higher than the state average or higher than the BH norm. These are the risk factors you will want to focus on addressing the lower. So the BH norm is just a Bach-Harrison norm. So it's just kind of like a study that was put together and how this was created. All right, this part is actually located on page 55 of the report and talks about protective profile for the ages or for the grades of 6, 8, 10, and 12, broken up down by year. Remember, we're still looking for protective factors that are decreasing or are lower than the other factors in this section. Then obviously the state average, the BH norm. These are the protective factors you will want to focus on addressing to increase, strengthen in the community you're looking to serve. Also on page 57 of the report, it talks through how to look at the numbers. So if you're trying to defer what the numbers are looking like, on page 57, it'll kind of clarify that for you a little bit. All right, so this is CADCA. Some of you might be familiar with it. These are just the 7 methods that can bring about the community change that have been adopted and used as a framework through CADCA, through their institute. Each of these strategies represents a key element to build and maintain a healthy community. In the planning process, utilize all 7 strategies to be as comprehensive as possible to achieve population level change. We definitely want to get a change with these. So when focusing on implementation of the environmental strategies, and consider the types of information, skill building, and support activities necessary. You will see that as you dig into CADCA and start putting stuff together, you'll actually see many of them kind of overlap, which is great because it's just reinforcing other sections of the strategies within CADCA. As you kind of look at this, this is just kind of some examples of interventions, the examples that were used, whether they affect a small number of individuals. This was really interesting to kind of dig into. So when you get a chance to kind of look at that and go over it, it just basically kind of helps define what CADCA is using, kind of give that framework and those examples that go with it. Here's just a few more. Here's the last 4 of the strategies that kind of focus on the environmental and community change. All right, so these are just a few examples of some evidence-based and promising practices. You can kind of revert back to these when you're going through and filling out your grant information if you need more information, or if it best fits what you're trying to do with your intervention. So these are really good resources to use when you're looking at them. All right, so let's talk about the action plan a little bit. Obviously, we got this out a little, about 3 months, a little later than we wanted to. So it's going to be a 9-month action plan. Make sure you use the example of the application, come up with your own format, include measurable goals and outline activities, address risks and protective factors, strategies that will be used to address those, and what measurable outcomes to expect. Include evaluations, measures to demonstrate desired outcomes and that are the outcomes of what's being achieved. All right, and here's just a few examples of when trying to put together your action plan. Obviously, we have the risk and protective factors to be addressed. They have, as an example for that, attitudes towards drug use, favorable goals. Obviously, want to promote and enhance the school-based. And then you have your activities, whether it be trainings by teachers, events, things like that that you want to use inside your plan, your action plan. And obviously what outcomes you'll want that you're hoping that will come from your activities. Reasonable goals. Don't try to set moon high goals. We always come across that, especially when I'm coaching kids in different aspects, and it kind of relates to this a little bit. I always ask them what their goal is, and they shoot for the moon. And I always ask them, can you achieve that? Or is that just something that you want kind of long-term? So kind of be a little reasonable with what goals you're looking at, who's responsible, and by when you want to achieve certain things. All right, so the evaluation plan should include the following components. You should have a purpose of your evaluation questions and criteria, data collection and analysis plan and implementation, evaluation report, and findings. There are a couple links with examples down there. Examples are always good, especially if you draw the brain fog like many of us do. It's always good to have something to go back at and kind of refresh the mind on what you're trying to achieve, and maybe give you a few more ideas on what you want to do. All right, here's the budget. Kind of want to go over that. Obviously, the budget awards, 50 to 100,000 budget requirements, no more than 2 to 3% of the funding. As we kind of go through this, no more than 10% can be used for administrative costs. Up to 5% can be used for equipment, i.e. computers. Any purchase over $5,000 must be approved. All right, so there must be, funds may not be used for construction. Appropriate justification for all budget items will be required. The budget form provided or one similar. So we will have it, like I said, if approved, we will have a kind of a template you can use to help put your budget together. Just kind of get an idea, the category of funding, your justifications, your funding amount. Just kind of give you a little bit of an idea on what to expect when filling out that budget. All right. If you have any questions, like I said, we're going to do that here in just a few minutes. But if for some reason after this, let's say tonight when you're thinking about things, you just have additional questions, feel free to reach out to Sarah. Her email is on here. Also her number if you wanted to leave her a voicemail on her office phone. Also, we have put the link for the proposal on here that'll take you to the Utah County website. And that is what I have for now. So we will open this up for any questions that you might have that Sarah or I could answer for you.
Yes, I have a couple questions.
Okay.
So my first question is, just looking at the grant applications, it looks like you made some changes to the eligibility requirements from last year and the first year, as well as what's listed in the state code. I just have a couple questions on why you made the changes, if that changes eligibility requirements, and then also a follow-up question about, and I don't have the information here because it was just a quick slide that you put up regarding coalitions and what's required of a coalition and what you define as a coalition.
All right. Hey, Sarah, do you want to answer the question on his first part of the question, why things were changed?
Yes, so the criteria has changed from last year. As we are looking at this each year and what the purpose is of this grant, we are looking to really help the individuals here in Utah County to be able to fund them, and so they can better serve their communities within where they serve. It's with, even though it is a statewide grant, this ability is given to each county. And so each county, the purpose of that is to be able to help their counties within where they live to be able to flourish better in these prevention measures.
Okay, so as far as eligibility, what exactly does that mean? Does that mean that because the from last year it was the same thing, whereas all the activities must take place in Utah County. What would that mean in practical sense as far as changing the eligibility? Does that mean that any individual that volunteers with an organization must live in Utah County? I mean, what does that mean exactly?
So the individual who's applying for the grant must reside in Utah County and work with individuals within Utah County.
Okay. So within like a coalition, if every coalition member must live in Utah County?
Okay.
Okay.
Ask your question again. Ask your question again. This is Heather.
So she said the grantee must reside in Utah County. So the question is, if somebody uses volunteers or interns or something like that,
the grantee,
yeah.
The grantee and the coalition need to be how they need to reside. So the coalition needs to be in Utah County. The
right.
person or the agency who is applying needs to be in Utah County. Now, if you have an intern, I would say an intern needs to be from Utah County, but if you have a volunteer, I think that's different because we can have volunteers help out from all across the state sometimes, but for people that are actively engaged and committed in the coalition, they need to be from Utah County.
So if an organization uses, let's say, an outside source or something like that, if they outsource some type of project, and by that I mean, like, let's say something creative or something like that, or I don't know, anything to create an ad or something like that, you're telling me that per this rule that everybody has to reside in Utah County? That's not what
we're saying. We're saying the applying agency and the coalition itself need to be housed in Utah County. If you have a partner who you want to contract with who does business for all of Utah County, say, for example, you want to partner with R&R Partners. They are a statewide entity that serves all of Utah. That's fine. You can work with agencies that serve all of Utah, but the applying agency needs to be in Utah County, and the coalition itself need to be in Utah County. So,
and if the agency, the applying, has multiple offices,
if they have an office in Utah County and the person who is applying works in that Utah County office, lives in Utah County, that would suffice.
Okay. And then just the follow-up question is regarding the coalition. The reason why I bring that up is that it was not in the request for proposal. And I was just curious why. I mean, was that something added afterwards, or?
I think what happened is the coalition definition has been made more clear, because I think that there may have been some confusion from the very beginning about what a coalition actually is. So a coalition needed to be formed before. I mean, the application says that you need to be a coalition to apply. And so I think what has happened is that definition has been made more clear. So the definition was always there. I think it's just been made more clear. We've talked to our attorney, we've talked to our administration, and to really drill down what specifically to serve, to use this funding. What does that look like? What entity should be able to qualify for that? And so we felt that we needed to be more clear and concise in that definition.
And with the requirement where it says at least 6 members present, are you talking about the coalition in the future, or are you specifying how many different groups must consist of a coalition to create a coalition?
With that, I think that they're asking for, because if you have a coalition, you should have meeting minutes, you should have attendees. And so they're asking for the backup that you have a coalition is what that's about. So if you're serving a coalition, you should have minutes from prior meetings and you should have agendas and rosters and whatnot. And so they're saying you should have meeting minutes from meetings where you had 6 people in the meeting.
So this is applying retroactively to last year. If you applied as a coalition last year.
No, this isn't anything about applying last year. This is what you have been in the last 6 months, what you can show that you have done as a coalition in the last 6 months.
Okay, so we reapplied as a coalition last year, but none of these requirements were in the contract as such. So we had a coalition, but we didn't have, being a brand new coalition, we didn't have 6+ different organizations. We were a smaller coalition because it was our first year. So,
but I think, and the issue that I see is that I think, and to be honest, I think when you applied last year, in my opinion, anybody who applied last year should have already had a coalition. Anybody who applied the first year should have already had a coalition, because that's what the application is asking for. It's asking for coalition involvement. And so, and a coalition has, like, I think that's what's happening, is that because obviously there are people who don't know what a coalition looks like, and so to be very, very clear and concise and avoid any confusion so that everybody who applies is coming in from the same level and doing the same work and having the same impact, we needed to be more clear in the definition. So it's not that the definition has changed, it's that the definition the definition was already there. It's just they've done research and found out what a coalition should have, and they're asking for those things now.
Okay, so I could understand. So I apologize for asking so many questions. I hope other people have the same questions. So I'll just have one follow up, and if not, I can ask you or Sarah after this meeting. So I just want to know. It just seems like these requirements. I mean, there's no way to retroactively go back in time to meet these requirements. My question is, could we still apply as the coalition even though we didn't have 6 members present?
I would say my advice to you is that if you have minutes from past meetings at all, can you provide minutes? And maybe you submit your application and you say, well, we only had 3 people attend this month. We only had 4 people attend this month. We had 5 people this month, but here are our minutes. Here's what we did. Even though we didn't have 6 people, we had our meetings, and here is send in what you have, at least. Even if you don't have 6 people in your meeting, I would say at least submit your coalition minutes that you had meetings and see if you can qualify, because really they want to know that people are meeting that requirement. And a coalition a coalition is a formal group. And so I think they've just taken the kind of the guesswork out of what that looks like for people. And so, and maybe next year will be even more clear. Maybe some of these bumps will be worked out even better, but I would say that, go ahead and apply and just submit the minutes that you do have, and meet the expectations that they're asking as best you can in your application, and then maybe provide justification why you didn't have 6 members, or how you can get 6 members in the future, or somehow do some kind of an explanation if you can't meet it.
Okay, thank you for the clarification, Heather. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry, I have another question. I just don't want to take up You didn't mention what was the total funding for this year? That wasn't mentioned in the presentation.
It's 50 to 100,000.
No, I mean, how much funding does the health department have to distribute?
Let's see, Sarah, do you have that number, or is it based on how many applications fall that are eligible?
That will roughly be 373,660. So that's just kind of a rough estimate of how much it will be.
And is there going to be multiple rounds of applications like last year? Last year you had kind of an elimination round, and then you went again with the other people that applied.
That is to be determined. We'll see who applies, and then the committee will review, and then it will be up to the committee to decide how they want to move forward with that.
And then Stephen said if we had any additional questions, we should direct them to you, Sarah. Is that correct? You can answer questions after this Q&A.
Yes, feel free to email them, and we'll do our best to answer as much as we can. Again,
Okay,
we will direct your personal questions, but we also need to be as impartial and biased as we can to make this process fair.
Wonderful. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, do we have any other questions? All right, I will turn it back over to Sarah. Do you have any final words?
I don't. Just encourage everyone to, if they feel like they are eligible, to put their application in, and it's due by the 26th. And then the review committee will look over the applications, and then hopefully they should know by the beginning or like middle of September. I believe it's September 9th. But thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing your applications.
And remember, this video will actually be put onto our website just to kind of reference. Thank you all.
All right, thank you. Have a good day. We're just ending.
Yeah.